Episode 15. We're going to be taking a deep dive into what's going on in Gaza, and Palestine, and we're going to be talking about what's going on in these college campuses across the country as well. So, we only have one speaker right now. It's David Allen Moon with David Allen Moon TV. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, you can go ahead and do that.
Hi, good evening. Welcome to State of Amerikkka. I'm from Canada. My name is David Allen Moon. My Indian name is Yakin Lunala, which means wealthy whale in Kwakwala, which is my tribe. Um, I am a researcher and a streamer. I just got back from the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's March, so I'm very active when it comes to live streaming and researching, and I'm glad to be back working with Captain Soup here, and I would welcome everybody.
All right, so thank you for being on the show today. I appreciate that. Um, let's see. There's quite a few things that we can start by talking about. If people don't know the history of Israel and Palestine, we could take a dive into that. So originally, Palestine was one country. After World War II, where 6 million Jews were slaughtered by Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, they were given a home in Palestine, but their home was already preoccupied by the Palestinian people. So there's part of the problem. Now the Palestinians want their land back because the Israelis are occupying it, which is fair. It was their home in the beginning, so I don't I understand. I can understand that. But now there's a war going on between Israel and Hamas, which Hamas is on the Palestinian side. Um, and on October, what was that? October 7th. On October 7th, there was about 1,200 Jewish people either kidnapped or killed by Hamas. So Israel thought it would be okay to go over to Palestine and wage war on Hamas. The problem lies is that they're killing civilians. So that's a huge issue right now. Is they're killing civilians. It's been a long-term occupation. It's been going on for about 6 months now, and the occupation is supposed to end. People want the occupation to end. A lot of these college universities, they have divestments. In other words, they're sending money to these different companies that are producing arms and manufacturing weapons. Uh, and so students are having these encampments, trying to get their colleges to stop at these divestments. This is basically what's going on right now. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I've been just watching what's on the news. It's not a lot up here in Canada. There isn't a lot of protests going on down here, but there's quite a few, dozens and dozens of different college and university campuses in the United States that are holding protests in regards to how some of our people in the education and the collegiate level of things are against investing any of their money for tuitions or any type of support towards genocide. As Captain Soup had mentioned, the occupation within Palestine has been over 75 years. So imagine every day being an October 7th for Indigenous people within Palestine and the Gaza Strip. There are people holding small protests in Cothet here and in many other places around Canada, expressing their discomfort for any type of genocide or mistreatment of indigenous people around the world. That being said, I've been covering a lot of the stuff in the past, and I'm under attack by, I don't want to call it the other side of the media, but there's lots of different stories going around about me, and um, I'm just hanging out, doing other things right now, and kind of behind the scenes uh, with doing research and stuff. And I'm glad that we're back with State of Amerikkka. We haven't done an episode in months. I don't know when the last time we did a episode, Soup, but yeah, let's keep talking about this. Let's bring the attention to people and educate them and help them understand what's really going on before they pick up a flag and go and support something. Um, I don't know what good comes out of genocide or mistreating indigenous people, but it's creating a lot of problems around the world where a lot of people and companies and countries and different people from all over the globe are sanctioning against any type of treatment of indigenous people around the world. It's a capitalist world, but it's also bad for business when when stuff like that's happening, and it's also looking worse on these colleges and universities, um, uh, calling in the heroic blue men that we all talk about all the time. Sometimes they do a good job. Sometimes they're called in just as a heavy hand, and it just sort of strikes a chord with me. I'll end my 5 minute rambling with it doesn't look good to me if we're mistreating our children in any way, shape, or form. I don't want to get into the further details about that, but it doesn't look good for business or otherwise. I don't like our children using their amendment rights, which everybody on that right side always talks about free speech, right? They're not allowed to use their free speech and rights when they're standing up against genocide or something they don't want to invest their money into. Weigh in, everybody. All I hear is crickets. Nobody wants to join us and talk about that, do they, Sue?
Yeah, it's tonight's pretty dead. Unfortunately, there's only one person watching, and it's only me and you. So this is probably the deadest it's ever been. But you know what? We're still doing it, so that's what's important. Um, Speaking of police brutality, there's been a lot of it recently with the protests at Columbia University and UCLA. I saw some of the images of some of the protesters at UCLA, and it was pretty gnarly. I mean, just blood coming out of their heads, and they got these gashes in their skulls from rubber bullets and tear gas canisters. I mean, what it looked like is the police were actually shooting these protesters with the tear gas canisters and the rubber bullets and like purposely, hey Jessica, welcome. Purposely trying to hit them with these tear gas canisters. So uh, you can pull up some footage of that here in a little bit. But if I'd like to hear what Jessica has to say. Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Um, can you hear me? Okay, I was making sure I was doing it right. My name is Jessica Husong, and I'm from Missouri, and I don't know what else to say. Just here to speak on my behalf of whoever might listen.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you for being here. All right. So,
For having me.
yeah. So, yeah, we were just talking about some of the brutality that was happening to these protesters. Like tear gas canisters being shot at these protesters, hitting them in the leg, the body, the head, rubber bullets hitting these protesters in the head. I was going to try to look for some of this footage for you guys. I know Columbia University, or no, UCLA actually it was. There was some videos that were put out showing what some of the brutality that happened there. Uh, I don't know if I can find any, but it was pretty bad. There was a, I think that was where the largest encampment was. Was that UCLA, as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah, States of 2020, I'm afraid to say, or was it 2020? When there were the boys in blue, the heroic blue men going around doing similar things to protesters that were, again, as I said earlier, exhausting their own amendment right to free speech. And they were being mistreated for using their own right, which is smells like a lawsuit to me, and also more.
Yeah.
A lawsuit. Like, that's the part I don't get. We don't have freedom of speech amendments up here. We just have a straight up flat. This is basically how the police treat it. They allow free speech. They allow hate speech and free speech. So it's kind of weird, but you know, you could literally be a douchebag, walk down the street. Like, it's almost like Canada actually has equality when it comes to that free speech. We can argue about it, whether hate speech is involved with free speech. I myself am never going to accept hate speech as free speech. We can argue about that all night too, if you want. I don't know if you guys have opinions on that. You know, like, I don't understand why these students are being mistreated when, like I said earlier, people are preaching up and down free speech. I should be able to freely speak. But does that include hate speech? Like, some of the people that are out there trying to spin the media in their own direction to get their own clout are saying that some of the protesters are saying D to the apartheid state. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think so. I think that they're more talking about what we said earlier, the investments and the dollars going towards, you know, weapons and ammunition and different types of things that continue the ugly turning wheel of genocide in the Middle East.
I'm sorry, where was this taking place at? So kind of silly for asking.
Pardon me?
Where was it taking place at, protest and the violence that the police shown?
Columbia University was.
Soup had mentioned it earlier. Go ahead, Soup.
Columbia University is one, then UCLA is another. I was about to play another video from UCLA. If you guys want to wait 1 second, let me go ahead and play this.
There's a struggle going on over here now, but again, some.
Wow.
They have their guns out.
Gina,
This is so dangerous. Again, they're shooting rubber bullets.
Rubber bullets.
I can tell you from doing stories about rubber bullets, they are extremely painful. If they hit your leg, your arm, they could break your arm. But they're trying to get into this encampment to get everyone arrested and out of this encampment. There's a struggle going on over here now. But
I don't know if you guys are watching the stream or not, but basically a bunch of officers had their guns pointed at these students, and they're shooting rubber bullets at them. Which rubber bullets are less than fatal, but they could be fatal if they hit you in the skull, or the temple. You know, it's just disgusting to see. Tear gas is a little less fatal, and they should have used tear gas more instead of rubber bullets. You know, that's just my opinion.
They shouldn't be using anything. It's a peaceful protest. I don't understand why they're using violence unless they just don't like what they're protesting and they're wanting to shut them up.
That's why I'm saying some of the police forces are politically driven, because some of the reports I'm getting, check out Hassan on Twitch, or Mikey from Central Committee on Twitch as well. I shouldn't do shout outs on here, but I will anyways. But if you need to find this information, I'm getting reports of people attacking these protesters that are protesting at these colleges, and the police were just standing there letting them do it. And that's pretty effed up, that people that are public servants are supposed to be hero blue men are allowing people to attack students, children. Like, you know, like, this is this how we want to teach our children, that, you know, they're probably confused right now. They're not allowed to use their free speech. They're not allowed to use their amendment right. Like, isn't that what the USA is all about? The amendments and stuff, and the rights that people are supposed to have, the land of the free. And same with Canada. I won't just harp on America. Canada's America's little brother. Whatever goes down there, usually we copy it. We just sort of say, "Hold my beer."
It's
Like,
like
go ahead.
the protest, sorry, it's like when nobody wants to get out and do anything that's going to draw attention to them. They want to follow the masses. It's like there's a police officer that might be like saying that this is just absolutely horrible and we shouldn't do it, is not going to go against the masses because they're afraid of what will happen to them, is what's happening to the protesters, or their family would be in trouble, or, you know, they could lose their job. It's not right. The powerhouses it's doing this, and it's like one of the horrible protests was like in Washington back in World War One, or after World War One. Actually, it was the soldiers that did a protest because they were promised certain benefits and they didn't get them. And I think after a couple of weeks, the president actually ordered the police to come in there, and they used actual real life firepower. And it's like, what? Why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, look it up.
you go and serve your country, and you sign the contract, and then you come back, and that contract isn't being honored, and then they go out and protest and say, "Wait a minute here, I got a contract saying right here, I serve, I get this and this and this. Where is it?" And then you get a bullet instead of
from the people you tried to protect and you served, and you watch your buddies die, and you know, you believe that America is a certain thing, and you go in there and you continue to protect it, but it's only that way when it's beneficial to the higher ups.
Yeah. Wars are often for profit, I'm afraid to say. A lot of the research I've checked out, a lot of the wars are politically driven, and also driven by capitalist, you know, salesmen that have, you know, weapons to sell, and when bullets go off, like, watch that what's that movie called? I'm gonna do another shout out and get in trouble. Lord of War.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
that's
sort of, you know, I won't get into the conspiracy theory and drift off topic, but that's what drives a lot of wars and stuff like that, and yeah, more genocide, more human suffering, more mistreatment of indigenous people in that area wherever the war is going on, and that's kind of why these kids are at these schools saying the same thing. I don't want to put one penny towards any type of genocide or promoting human suffering. It's a no. They don't want to do it, and that's why these big encampments were there. And then, like we talked about it, they get mistreated for expressing their own amendment rights. So I'm just as confused as you guys are.
Sorry, I was trying to do some networking and getting the stream shared out. Yeah, I don't understand it. There's an encampment here in Michigan at the University of Michigan, and there's about 100 students that are there right now. And they've let them keep the encampment up, and there hasn't been any violence. There hasn't been any arrests, and I don't understand why they can't just let them have the encampments up at other universities. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's it's stupid. Um, Same at Michigan State. There was a encampment up. They had it up for about 5 days, and they took it down. It was all peaceful. So far in Michigan, we haven't had any arrests related to this. So uh, I think that some of these police officers are just feeding their own ego here.
Well, like I said earlier, it's politically driven, right? It's each state has their own sort of views on things, and as long as people are law abiding and they're peacefully protesting, yeah, like as long as you clean up after yourself, I don't know, like whatever rules are set there, and it seems to be the same thing going on in one state as another, but the approach to law enforcement is completely different. As I said earlier, politically driven, perhaps.
Nice chair, by the way. Um, I have another I have another video when you guys are ready of this time Columbia University. I don't know if you guys are watching the stream, but there was some definitely some police brutality there. That's the first one that really caught my eye was Columbia University. This comes from Aaliyah Scootercaster from Freedom News TV. It's like a 2-minute clip. I'm gonna go ahead and play that real quick.
Go for it. I'll try to get it on my laptop real quickly and catch the last part of it. So take your time if you want. But that's not going to worry about it. I'll catch it later. I'll probably watch this stream anyway. Afterwards, just to rebuff my mind. See how they're trained a little differently, like I said earlier? They're politically driven.
I can't really hear. I can't hear you through the chaos. What?
Oh, I'm just saying they're politically driven. You can tell right away, and their training shows that they're just out to escalate stuff. It's way different than Michigan, as you mentioned, my friend.
Yeah, Michigan's been so much different.
Yeah. And it's just a culture. I've talked about this before in many episodes. It probably drives you guys all nuts talking about culture all the time within the military and police and public service. It's not a good culture, and I'm not talking about drums and dancing and that kind of culture and language. I'm talking about they don't care about the law, it appears. They don't care. Worry about the lawsuits later and escalation, just screaming and yelling at people and throwing them to the ground and using munitions. And it was almost like, the shades of what me and Matt talked about the other day, Portland and Ted Wheeler and all that kind of stuff going on. It's just, it's scary. You could go out in a state or a province in Canada or the US and it's subject to change. I shouldn't laugh about it, but I'm laughing because it's ridiculous that you should be publicly served just the same way in Michigan as in New York. It's a head scratcher for me. And same in Canada, you could be treated differently in a police, an area that's policed in comparison to the city, you know. I know it's rough in the cities, guys. I know it is. But can't we be trained to be nicer? I mean, use force when required, of course, but to go excessive, and it just looks like the the NYPD remind me of the LAPD. Or the Vancouver Police Department.
Yeah, speaking of genocide, we were talking about how we could discuss the well, we don't have to discuss it yet, but the genocide on our indigenous people here in America. And I know you're both native, so that's something we could discuss also, if you guys wanted to.
Yep, I'm from Weewaikai Nation. My name is Yakin Lanala, but I'll let Jessica take a turn because all I've been doing is yapping. So I'll hand the feather over to our sister.
Oh, I appreciate that, but I kind of like to sit down back and observe and then add my sense as we go.
So shall I continue?
Yeah, I guess go ahead.
Yep, my Indian name is Yakin Lanala, which means wealthy whale in Kwakwala. I'm from Weewaikai Nation. My name is David Allen Moon. I'm a researcher. I've mentioned it before. I do a lot of live streaming for, you know, soccer events, sporting events, protests. I just went to the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women's March in my area, which some of you call Powell River. I prefer to call it Kothet Territory. Qathet, which means paddling together, gifted from my southern relatives of the Comox people. Anyhow, yeah, there's similarities going on in my head and also through research and parodies and visions that I see the similarities of the government regimes in the past and currently in Turtle Island here we call North America, having those parodies of mistreating indigenous people. We do not have missiles and bombs being dropped by drones, but we do have apartheid states that exist here and also in the Middle East. We have indigenous people being mistreated in many different ways, very, very badly in Gaza. That's why a lot of people are protesting and why they don't want to invest their money into any type of genocide. And to rewind things, there were children in residential schools in Turtle Island subjected to many abuses. And then also some of them were buried outside of those schools where they were supposed to be getting educated and graduating. We have reservations which are not as large as the Gaza Strip's open air prison. I label many of the reserves not, you know, not in a disrespectful way, but these are basically former and current in certain ways open air prisons as well, where we were basically treated like cattle. We weren't allowed to have human rights until the 60s. And we're basically treated that way and sequestered and kept on these reservations, not given any opportunity, not given any education opportunities, as I mean in jobs and stuff like that, which has recently just changed. You know, what else should I say? Forced starvations. Uh, Violence, lateral violence, just mistreatment. There were people called Indian agents, which this town is actually named after Israel Powell, who was his full job, you can look it up yourself, was to suppress and oppress indigenous people and displace them and keep them away from any opportunities. And that's why we're changing the name from Powell River to Kothet. I totally support Kothet, the name, in every way, shape, or form. We already have the hospitals named after that name, and it's going to be Kothet City because Who would want to have the name named after an Indian agent, a city named after an Indian agent that his sole job was to oppress indigenous people and promote genocide? You know, it doesn't sit good with me, and it shouldn't sit good with anybody. Accepting any type of genocide, any type of mistreatment of indigenous people, whether we are in Gaza, whether we are in Canada, whether we are in the US, that's the main point. And our kids are not going to abide by it. They're not going to. They don't want to. And they shouldn't be getting beaten up for it, for standing up for what they believe in. People are all allowed to go on here and everywhere else and express their feelings and what they believe in. But I guess when it's a politically disagreeing subject, it doesn't apply. And I just keep scratching my head.
I do notice some of the similarities between what happened then and what's happening now. It's sad. I mean, we have videos coming out of soldiers like going out and like killing civilians and with drones, with guns, not just adult civilians but children as well. Um, you know, they're killing their parents. These children don't have their parents anymore. They're blowing up the hospitals. I think all the hospitals have been blown up. The one university has been blown up. It's just they're terrorizing them. I mean, and it's ironic that they call them terrorists when they're terrorizing them. you know, so
Right. And let me add, the terror on both sides is wrong.
terrorism, yeah.
Yeah, hurting 1,200 civilians is bad, October 7th. But like I said earlier, 75 years of every day being October 7th is what the Palestinian people go through in Gaza under the occupation performed by the apartheid state. I'd appreciate if Jessica wants to weigh in on the indigenous
I don't know where she went.
American perspective. If not, we'll just go back to it. But it's all bad, and that's what the parodies are. And people aren't stupid, Soup. You know that. Like, people are educated, they know how to read, they are aware of what's going on, and we're catching on to what has been happening and what happened and what continues to happen. So yeah, that was scary watching that video earlier about the NYPD and how they were just like, get out of here, get out of the way, back up. It's like, oh my God. Okay. And it just makes me sad. I don't like to see anybody suffering. I don't like to see people being scared or terrified or in duress or stress. It triggers me. Like, I don't like it. I don't know what Soup thinks about it, but I mean, that's why we're all here talking about it. It's something I don't want to see. I would rather see everybody having a free education, cheap, healthy food sources. I talk about it every episode. Probably drives Captain Soup nuts. Capitalism isn't my favorite thing, but we have to work and live in this environment, and the rent should be cheap, and people should be able to afford to go and get food to feed themselves. I don't like hearing that people have to choose between rent and food, but we're going off topic here. People are starving in Gaza. Going back to the subject, people are starving. Colleges, universities there, hospitals, like are being obliterated. Like, check out the videos where the whole blocks are being leveled, and it's disturbing. Like, I know you're going after, I say this online, and Hassan, I steal his content all the time. Let's say a terrorist is in my local high school. Do we level the whole fucking block and say, oh, we're going after the terrorist guys? Do we level the whole block, or do we go after and try to get that bad guy and arrest him and charge him and convict him accordingly and sentence him accordingly, or do we level that whole block off with all of our children in the school? Like, what the fuck's going on? Sorry to swear about it, but what's going on, man? Do you get my point, Sue?
Yeah, like blowing. You're talking about like with bombs blowing up the whole block, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just don't want to say too much. I don't want to get banned again. No, I don't.
Oh,
I don't want to get banned again. I don't want to get us in trouble with the community standards. I'm so scared all the time to even speak now because I might say something and then boom, Dave Moon TV is out for the count for 30 days because I said the B word.
I mean, hopefully you can swear without getting in trouble. I mean, that's that. But who knows? Like our free speech is suppressed so much these days that it's hard to tell. It looks like
Yeah,
Jessica joined and left again. She's having some
it's
problems.
subject to change. Maybe it's her reception.
Yeah.
Hopefully she'll come back because I would like everybody to weigh in. We should have all these people here. Chaz, Dora, shout out. John Tell from Leon Block. I don't want to get in trouble, but we need to get everybody here back here, just like, you know, for the spirit of Lana. We need to weigh in on what people think about this kind of stuff. And the more people we have in the talking circle, the less I have to talk more. Yes, less is more for people. My wife agrees. Yeah, but it's like, you know, the parodies are there. That's, you know, we're not terrorist sympathizers, people, like some of the news articles are going out about me being a terrorist sympathizer. Indigenous people are not terrorist sympathizers. We are sympathizing with other Indigenous people that live around the world. We don't like to see children crying, suffering. The average age is 18 in Gaza. Could you believe that? Look at our average age in Canada and the US, and then look at the age is in Gaza. Think about that for a second. So the oldest person could be 36 years old, like an elderly person. That's their age in Gaza. Like, don't you guys see the mathematics and the problem here? That if a person even makes it to 18 in Gaza, they're so far radicalized. I'm not sympathizing. I'm just saying when you grow up in an environment from birth to whatever age you manage to survive to, you are conditioned by these conditions. Not knowing your parents, like Soup said, losing your siblings and growing up with that, and then starving, or, you know, I don't want to say it, but you could be going to the corner store for a jug of milk or something, and then a sniper takes you out because they thought you're a hummus terrorist. You know, I don't want to say it the wrong way. We'll just talk about hummus, okay? You know, the stuff you dip into your crackers into. Yeah, let's just keep these things. And I like to say apartheid state.
I wish I could
don't
just
like
talk
to
about
say
hummus all
that.
day.
Yeah, exactly. There's all different kinds, man. My wife just introduced me to a pickle flavored hummus.
Oh,
Very subject to.
I've had garlic.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste, but it's great. Like once you have a couple of bites, the first one's a little weird, but once you have a couple, it's tasty. Yeah, and I don't like saying the I word either. It's like since we haven't talked, Soup, I've managed to create a language I learned from that other platform called TT, and we've all developed it, right? Because you're not allowed to say the B word, you're not allowed to say the I word, you're not allowed to say a lot of things. So we managed to create a language, so we're skipping the people watching it, and it's really unfortunate. I hate to keep talking, but it's really unfortunate that there's people that'll sit here and watch us and look for something to get us bananaed.
Yeah, it sucks. People No, people mass reported the original Family Soup TV page, so I had to make a new one. I almost gave up on streaming because of it, and like I had 13,000 followers on there. Uh, so that was really frustrating. On losing my YouTube and losing my Twitch because people were reporting it. But it's the message needs to come no matter what. We need to keep pushing so people hear what we have to
Exactly,
say.
Soup. Yeah, exactly, Soup. I appreciate you coming back because I was bugging you for months. You know that. I was like, bring State of America back. Bring it back. Bring it back. Where's State of America? Where's Chaz? Where's Matt? Where's all of our old comrades? Like we gotta come back. Like we gotta do this on a Sunday night for an hour or so. Make it a regular thing. Let's get these people out there and keep going, whether we have 4 people or 40 people or 400 or 4,000 people. We need to get this out and talk about it. We need people to talk about it. Just like the murdered and missing Indigenous women. It's got a bit of a parody in there because Indigenous people are being mistreated. Women, men, children. That's the parody. Like it's a really big problem when 4% of the population, which is Indigenous women in Canada, 50% of them, horrible things happen to them. I don't even want to get into it because I don't want to get bananaed. See, I know how to say that language. You can imagine, okay? Being accosted and other bad things past that point where they're being violated, they're being mistreated, they're being yeah. If it and it's never good. We should have zero matriarchs or patriarchs or two-spirited people being subjected to harm or terror or they're unalived and their lives are shortened because of a circumstance. We talked about that today at the murdered and missing Indigenous women. Hundreds and hundreds of Indigenous women should be here, and also non-Indigenous women. Let's not put Dave Moon TV into a corner and say all he cares about is Indigenous women. No, I'm talking about the two-spirited people as well. Nobody should be going missing or being subjected to harm. That's the whole reason why these kids are at these campuses. I think there's over 100 universities. If you look up on your lists, Soup, you can confirm it with me that there's
Yeah,
only maybe
125
up here. There you go. See, that's it. Thanks, Soup. I need to be the statistician I've always dreamed of. It's yeah, like if you got 100 different universities with students doing sit-ins and protests, maybe some of the governments should be opening up their eyes to what is really going on.
I have a question. The government says a lot of it has to do with them being missing is because they don't have cameras and stuff there at the res, but yet they don't want to do anything about it when they have the means to do it. What's your thoughts on that?
Who, me? Like Dave Moon?
Yeah,
Or-
I'm asking anybody who wants to listen. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I've talked to the police up here and they say they don't have money for cameras, which is a flat out lie. We have money for all different kinds of things. They say we're living in the greatest countries in the world. When somebody says we don't have money, I question that. Like we shouldn't have to have, police cameras on every public servant when they're supposed to be protecting and serving us. But due to the circumstances, George Floyd and other incidents, we have to have cameras everywhere. Thank God there were people taping that incident. So yeah, I don't like cameras everywhere. It's fucking weird. But because of everything that's going on in public spaces and public servants, we do have to have some sort of footage or camera, closed circuit TV, just to monitor what's going on so we can keep people safe. Once there's training with these police forces, we could do this properly, right? There shouldn't be anybody ever unsafe or subjected to to bad things, you know. Yeah, that's my way in on it. They say there's no camera money for cameras. I say BS. I smell BS on
Bullshit.
that. But I don't like the Orwellian thing either. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, we can send so much money overseas to other people, and it's great to be able to help out everybody that you can. But I really think we need to help out the people that we have at home first. And we send out billions and billions to help out Ukraine, but we have no money to protect the people. I don't understand. And cameras are not that expensive. Heck, they can get money for helicopters and see in the dark cameras to catch these little tweakers or whatever, but we can't get cameras to protect women from going missing. Oh, that's the reason, is because cameras. There's not enough cameras. Oh, well, there's a lot more than just not enough cameras is what's going on in there. But if you want to talk about cameras, let's talk about cameras. Why didn't you do anything about that then, if that's the problem?
I think all cops should have
nailed it,
body
sister.
cams too, and I think that's a problem because there's police that are getting away with way too much because they don't have body cams, and it should be nationally mandated. But yeah, cameras on the reservations would be good too. I think that would be super helpful.
And speaking about cameras, that's why they don't want journalists or news or cameras in Gaza. We'll go back to the subject. You know, they don't want to be exposed. They don't want us to see. They don't want the world to see what's really happening there. And that's why, you know, we're journalists, and I always feel for the journalistic communities of some of these brave uh, fellow human beings they're going into these areas that are under fire constantly and trying to cover the truth. Like, don't we all want to know what's really going on? You guys would also agree with me. I want to know what's going on. I don't like the media lying to us. I don't. That's why I got into this. That's why Dave Moon TV was born. If the media was truthful, I probably wouldn't have even been a streamer or a researcher. But the more I research, the more I find the holes and the lies and the, you know, like it's very, very frustrating. You know, why do we have to have cameras in Gaza to show the truth when justice should be prevailing? Why do we have public servants that we have to watch like their day in the daycare, you know? Like, no offense to the
Imagine what we would
people.
see if we had cameras everywhere in Gaza. Like if they were on every street corner, if there was a camera on every street corner, the amount of atrocities we'd see in Gaza would just be insane.
And it breaks my heart. The videos that I see of the children is what makes me, it terrorizes me. It triggers me. It upsets me. Not because I'm indigenous and they're indigenous, but I don't even care where they come around the world. If I see a young little child crying, like what I've seen, it just breaks me. It just breaks me. It makes me want to cry now just talking about it because
children should never be a victim of anything. We should do everything we possibly can to protect them. That is our job, is to keep them safe. And it breaks me. I can't stand to see children hurt. I can't stand to see the elderly hurt, and I cannot stand to see the animals hurt. And I just, because they are all defenseless and they just deserve our protection.
You nailed it, sister. They're all sacred. You know, we're all sacred. The planet, the water, our elders, our youth, let's not forget our middle-aged people. Whoever, you know, it's it's all important. Like it's the circle of life. And yeah, I hope that we can bring light to the situation hour by hour and keep coming back to State of America and getting more and more people on here and doing an hourly show every week or or whatever Soup's ready to do. Jessica, I thank you also for joining us here tonight.
I appreciate being invited.
I don't know what else to say. I repeat myself after this point. It's like a recorded message, because my vision will be the same thing. I will keep talking about these things and finding the parodies within my research. That's why I call myself the parody man. Go ahead, Soup.
Oh, like where's Matthew at when you need him?
I know exactly, because he's very, very opinionative, and he's a good researcher too. And same with our other panelists that are busy out there covering stuff and doing other things. If we can reunite like the Power Rangers or something, we could definitely get a lot of different angles on this, right? You know, that's my vision, is to have, you know, Soup's in Michigan. I'm not sure where Jessica is, but I'm up in northern Western Canada, and if we can get a few of us, a dozen of us, back together, working on talking about these topics, maybe it can branch out to even more education to people, because that's what I'm into, is spreading awareness, not just talking.
It's because that's knowledge. The more people know, the more they are aware of what's going on around them, and they're just not mindless beings just going through the motions. And people need to be aware of what's going around. And like you said about the media, it's never reported of what really is going on. They change it, they put it to what political means that they need it to be, and they push you to view what they want you to view. Like something horrible could be going on, and like over in Gaza, but let's look at JoJo Siwa with her new whatever it is you want to call it. I mean, and everybody's paying attention to that because nobody wants to face reality, and the government just keeps feeding that to us to keep us dumb, mindless, obedient zombies, because they fear us. They do, but we're just not all in the same boat.
Yeah, well, like Kothet, the name there, the territory I live in, Kothet, means paddling together in Comox. We should all jump on the same canoe or boat, whatever you want to call it, and start paddling together and within that boat in the same direction. It's one of the visions I'm getting from the creator right now. So
I have a question. What do you think we could do, or what do you think could be done about the situation over in Palestine? Like, that's something I'm trying to brainstorm right now.
Oh, okay. Well, finishing off on tonight's episode, I follow a lot of Hassan and Mike's information and research. We have two avenues here. One I agree with, one I don't really agree with.
There he is.
But it's something to look at. Matt, welcome. I guess, or if that's what you're talking about, yeah, Matt Scott. Some people are talking about one state. Some people are talking about two separate states, like Bosnia and Herzegovina, whatever it's called. The main thing that I want to talk about is any type of mistreatments should be justified. There is no sides. We are all human in nature and in science and reality. So justice must prevail, no matter what the crimes are that are committed. Everybody should be held accountable for their actions. It's a solution that is going to take years and years of courts and law changing, and a lot of the approach has to be reevaluated. It's such a complex situation that it's not going to be easily solved. There's no one list of solutions that could be made. But I can reflect on this and say that there's something up here called reconciliation, which the government of Canada is attempting to perform resolution with the Indigenous people. If there was a way we can reconcile the 75 years of October 7th that have happened to the Gaza people, maybe we have a chance on some of the resolution. Part of that resolution, we require accountability. Soup and I and many of our researchers have talked about that. We need to find accountability for anybody that's responsible for their actions, regardless of what it is. If there's some hummus people that need to be brought to justice, yes, bring them to justice. I understand where they're coming from, but if crimes have been committed, you know, anybody that's committed any type of crime needs to be brought justice on I hate saying sides because there is no sides. Any human being that's committed crimes towards other human beings, even if it's been endorsed by a law of some sort or another. And like I said, it's just I'm digging deep into it, and there's no easy solution to the it's more than problem, it's problems, and it's also many different it's an onion that you peel of all the issues that have happened for over 75 years. And I want to say I hope, but I hate saying that word too. I hope and pray. I don't believe in prayer. I don't believe in hope. I believe in action. We need to tell the apartheid state that they have accountable actions that they have to come forward to. Some people may be facing certain types of prosecution. There might be restitutions, but you know, we need to put back what was that was undone. This is more than land back. You know, the craters have to be cleaned up. The buildings have to be reconstructed. The indigenous people in Gaza need to be treated as human beings and equals as other people are treated within that area. And it's just so much work. I could talk all day about it, but I don't want to bore you and everybody will fall asleep.
Oh, you're fine.
I don't know. I don't have a solution.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a complicated question. I just thought about it, but I was like, that's something I need to think about for for a while before I can really come up with a good answer. Matthew, how do you feel about the protests that are happening?
My solution: demilitarize Israel.
Yeah.
Literally, because their weapons that they're getting, the weapons and financial aid they're getting from the United States is too much and turning them into an oppressive state. And they're taking all that artillery, all that gear, everything that they're using, and using it against the people to crush dissent. It's funny, Joe Biden went live a couple days ago and said something about how, America does not crush dissent. We support our brothers and sisters in arms and everyone here in the country, but yet that's exactly what they're doing, is using the police to crush dissent. So it's extremely hypocritical of Biden to come out and say that.
I told you you would, and Soup's right too. As soon as you came in right away. Yeah, that's one of the steps, Matt. I totally agree. And him, Matt and I get into a lot of arguments and disagree, but now I'm starting to see enlightenment on where Matt's coming from and what he's talking about, right? It's not about picking on the Republicans or the Democrats or getting into politics. We're not dumb. We're too smart and observant and noticing things, right? Oh, okay. You call yourself a liber, you call yourself anti-genocide. Well, why did you guys just pass funding to promote more genocide? Right, Matt?
Exactly. You can't say that you're supportive of us and then go and do something else, because then that shows an entirely different picture to us.
Do you think Israel should have nukes?
What?
Oh, I said, do you think Israel should have nukes?
No, I don't think anyone should have nukes.
Yeah.
I agree. Nobody should have nukes.
I mean,
No, nobody should have nukes. It's not something that we should be holding in our hands,
I've played enough of the video game Fallout to know how nuclear fallout would be disastrous. Literally. It's not something that I want to see any country go through.
So I guess Matt would say demilitarizing most of the countries would be something that you would agree with as well, Matt. Sorry, go ahead, sister Jessica.
Yeah, like a worldwide
Oh.
peace accord.
It's okay. Go ahead, guys. I'm listening.
Like the end goal would be like a worldwide peace accord.
Where we can use peaceful negotiations instead of war for profit conduct. I'm starting to get enlightened from Matt, because him and I have talked quite a few minutes, and same with Soup, and I get his angles too. I'm going to get to know Jessica as we go along, but I'm starting to see where Matt's arguments come from, and he will not, change his mind. He's pretty concrete when it comes to his point of views and what he sees. And I understand now where you're coming from, when it's like, these governments are bad and they're doing things that Matt doesn't agree with. And we need to, no nukes. We need to demilitarize them to begin with. I think that's Matt's first.
They openly lie to us, and like we can see through it after a while. After a while, we start to see through the sheets that they've woven to just block our view. And we're like, wow, you're really doing that? Yet you're saying you're not doing that.
Oh,
But
Chaz,
yeah, the money goes all the way too.
Why can't we go back to the way it was back thousands of years ago and just let the bigwigs fight each other out? I mean, and they always take like the strongest military guy to the opposite military guy and just let them fight it out, and whoever won, that's what happened. Why can't we just put an island and have these guys just go at it and leave the people out of it? Because if they want to fight, let them fight.
There you go. A good solution. Battle Royale. Chaz is watching you guys. He says hi.
Live streaming.
Yeah, join us anytime. Let Chaz know he's welcome in here, because we're kind of changing our stances on things, right? It's we want to hear every angle.
Something I've been thinking about for a long time, as far as politics go and voting goes, is the people and the citizens of each nation should have more power in their hands than just at the polling stations. I feel like there should be like a way that we could establish some type of like digital, I don't know, like a way to just expel politicians that aren't doing enough for the people without having to go to a polling station to do it. Because if it comes down to a polling station, then it all comes down to a vote where you don't know where people's intentions lie and where their ideologies lie. So if it was a lot easier to do it, then I don't know, it might make it easier.
It's called a guillotine.
And you don't even know if that vote's actually
I don't know why I'm laughing. I must be completely insane. But it's just something that we talk about in the left, right?
Because there's politicians out there that are really stoking violence with their words and their rhetoric, and yet, having to wait until like the elections to actually expel these types of politicians is dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're allowed to just spout all their hate, their rhetoric, and anything that's misinformation up until the elections, and yet we have no power to change that until the elections, and that's even on a whim, because we don't know if we'll end up expelling them.
Well, look at the chaos that Trump caused on January 6th, what he was saying. I mean,
Way back in the day, like villagers used to gather in a village square and come to a vote right there in the community to, vote out politicians rather than go to a polling station and do it. It would get the whole community together in like one spot, and everyone would either agree or disagree. And eventually, by the end of the day, you have that politician still in office or they'd be gone.
That kind of goes to the fact of where they didn't have media to kind of manipulate what they want the so-called villagers to see, because the villagers could see what was going on right then and there. it goes back to manipulation of what the world sees and the power that they have. They have too much power. They have too much money. They have too much power. The only thing that we have is our mouth and our word and our free speech. And that's what they're trying to take away. Because if they cannot manipulate everybody into thinking what they want, then they lose power. So our words is the only thing that we have that's strength.
Exactly.
That's all we got left, comrades. But back to the parody, you know, that's what's going on in the Middle East in that place called the apartheid state. Benny needs to step down and needs to be arrested and go face his war crimes. Basically, he endorsed these war crimes towards children and civilians. The whole population is not Hamas. Okay, let's get that straight. Civilians are not supposed to be under siege or attack or under harm when it comes to the one of those war accords, the Vienna one or whatever. It's a no-brainer. When there's an article of war that's been broken, you write up the citation, you take the people that are responsible to world court, and you perform justice, just like it happened in World War II. You do war crime, you find out. You F around, you find out. And there should be no exceptions. If it's your buddy or not, doesn't matter.
The government of Israel has sown division into this whole conflict for generations, because for generations they've lied to their own people through propaganda to basically explain to them that anyone that's Palestinian is either a bad person or a terrorist. So that ideology has stuck with the government for the longest time, and I think that's why this has persisted for so long. It's because they've perfected a way to run a fear campaign on their own people, to make them think that the other side is evil and there's nothing good about them.
I think
There was a
since
video.
oh, go ahead.
Sad.
What?
No, go ahead.
I
What were you
said-
saying?
There was a video I watched that kind of put that into perspective that I seen on TikTok. I think it was a couple months ago, about a Israeli settler traveling to Gaza to visit, and basically being afraid to walk in there because everything that he was explained throughout his childhood and his life was that, you know, being over there, you have to, like, you know, be aware of your surroundings. You have to be on guard. You never know when you're going to get attacked or anything. And yet he just went over there and met a really old, elderly Palestinian man who basically explained to him that he was being lied to and showed him, you know, what true friendship was. And that was a story that really stuck out to me, because it's both sides coming to an agreement that they're both being lied to and that they can't actually find friendship in each other from different sides of the battlefield.
Exactly. That just goes back to the way that they manipulate on what they allow us to see.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It puts that all in perfect perspective.
Yep.
I think there's been a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric since 9/11, and I think that's when it really spiked in this country.
Mm-hmm. It definitely has.
Yeah, it's something that's a problem as well. Any type of rhetoric or media division is it's something that we got to stop and take a look at.
Propaganda is
think
powerful,
about-
and seeing its effects today.
Yeah, like see if we can boycott some of the stuff out there that's just divisional, and I hope that we can have a media source, holistic source of all the different broadcasters, you know, talking about the truth rather than trying to cause division. And some people do believe lies, and that's the whole problem right here. Like Matt said, the people in the Middle East and in other places around the world have been, you know, subjected to so much rhetoric that They have divisional and hate between the different tribes when we could work together as people from one religion and another. That, like 75 years, 76, 77 years ago, from what I heard and the research I've checked out, there were all three of the different religions, major religions, were living in Palestine in peace. They were fine with each other. I don't talk, but I listen to his son, and he talks about that kind of stuff being the way it was in Turkey and in other countries. Like, why can't we go back to that? I think is what Jessica said. Go back to the gladiator days, but also go back to the times when people just got along. Like, why do things have to be so difficult?
Exactly. And I'm not gonna lie, whenever I hear the word Hamas, I think of that as like a deflective topic to talk about, to deflect from all this division that's been sown throughout the generations between Israel and Gaza. So I feel like that right there is like a monkey in the wrench from undoing all of the division. Because every time someone brings up Hamas, it always becomes argument to a counterpoint. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like it's detracting from fixing the division and solidifying the division, if anything.
Just a way to keep everybody divided. That's the whole plan. Divide. And once they've divided, they will divide you even more. And once that's been divided, they'll divide that group even more, to where we're just also spread thin that we're not a threat.
Yep, they use two methods. They use division and brainwashing.
Yep.
Both of them in tandem.
Exactly.
So Matthew, how do you feel about what's been going on at Columbia University and UCLA when it comes to police brutality? Because we discussed that earlier. I feel like
Over the last week, I watched a lot of documentaries and like clips from YouTube on Kent State, and it's made me, kind of think about those times and wondering when we'll end up seeing the National Guard on college campuses, because Biden already said that that's not going to happen, but he also said that, like I was saying earlier, that we're a nation that doesn't crush dissent and we honor individuality and expression, but yet that's not what happened. So I don't know. I'm kind of fearful that this may turn into like a national Kent State type of situation. That's what's been on my mind.
Do you have a fear of a civil war breaking out?
I just have a fear of authority figures shooting students with ammunition.
That too.
Yes. War? That might happen too. I don't know. That I'm not sure about.
I was just thinking what you were talking about, the dividing and what Biden said, going back to National Guard being at the campus, and just it's like Biden trying to tell Texas what to do in their state, and that's what Civil War was pretty much fought on. It was because they did not like Washington telling them how to run each state. And so now, after they had the government to help out with each state, and they had the laws that passed that way, there was no tyranny. And I just don't know if that's where it's going right now.
Yeah. Starting to realize something, a self-realization about the Democratic Party, is that they don't always follow their heart. They usually follow the money. It's the truth, because you notice, like, the popular opinion that may not get him funding will be something that he'll avoid, like in 2021 when the State of the Union address was on, and he talked about how the answer to the police brutality protests and the murder of George Floyd were to continue to fund the police, knowing that the entire nation was that was for the movements was for the defund. He completely went the opposite way because he knew if he stuck with the defund, he probably wouldn't get paid by all his affiliates. That's what I think. It all comes down to capitalism.
Yeah, and they're just talking heads. Like I said before, you guys can check out earlier episodes or what I said, any of my content going back to 2018. Both parties, all parties, we have a party system up here. All three parties are lobbied and told what to say. And it's no different in your country, and it's no different than in other countries around the world. They're literally paid what to think and what to say.
Unless you know somebody face to face, you're not going to know like their interests or where like their loyalty and humanitarianism lies. Like I can't trust that, you know, a president elected is going to do a good job unless I know them physically and know what they believe in and their interests. So it's almost like just like electing somebody you don't know to run a country that you may not even know how they feel like they're going to run it.
Well, that's it, right? You know, 200 years of genocide and oppression. I don't know who to trust. I don't know who's lying or not. You know, I don't see any evidence from the liberals or the conservatives or the socialists in that matter in Canada, which one is actually telling me the truth or which one is actually looking out for all of the people, regardless of their race, religion, or even their political view. Like politics, from my perspective, has, you know, divided a lot of people. Even me and Matt have gotten into arguments politically. You know, I always was pushing for the left and pushing for the liberals and saying, "Oh yeah, the Democrats are totally left. They're 100% trustworthy, and come on, give them a break. You're picking on them." And it's like, no, actually, no. Matt's pointing out that the livers and the socialists are just as not trustworthy as the conservative Republicans out there. I have yet to find or define any concrete evidence that any political party is out there to support all of us as human beings.
Yeah, like there, all these politicians out there are getting paid for what they do to do what they do. We're just out here doing it for free because we care about changing the world. There's a huge difference between the two. You know what I mean?
100%.
One's actively caring, the other one's putting on a face that they're caring just so they can get paid for it. Like a photo op almost.
Like a picture of a kissing baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So where do we go from here? Like, we just have to pressure whoever's in power, like I told you guys before, right? I mean, I don't exactly like Cheeto, but if he woke up tomorrow and said, "Oh, okay, let's do some land recognition. Let's sit down and look at you know, some things that are going to help the human beings and the race." I doubt he will, but let's just dream a little bit.
I know that's
right?
funny.
I don't care if it's Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, Donald Trump, or Jagmeet Singh, or somebody else. Like, who's telling the truth? Who's going to actually step up and help the people rather than lining their own pockets?
Right.
And that also makes me wonder, though, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if we get somebody that's actually for the people, would they also be corrupted later on down the road?
Which one has an about face when they get in there?
I'm sorry?
Which one has an about face when they get in there, right? Like, sometimes they say they're going to do something.
Right.
And then when they get in there, they completely turn about face. So sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's been pretty much every politician I ever seen. But no, if we happen to get lucky to find somebody, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic on this, but let's just say we find somebody that is actually for the people. And, I've seen some political people run in that I was like, oh, they have a lot of good means and support the people. And then somehow they just get pushed out.
Find me
But
any politician that's lived in all 50 US states, and maybe I might vote for them because they've actually been in every single territory to know exactly what things are like everywhere. That's something I'm looking for.
that's what it goes back to each individual government, is because Washington does not know what's going on in each state. They like to
Exactly.
think that they do, but they really don't know. But I mean, if we have to find a politician, it goes back to, are they really going to stay there for the people, or after a while? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you have so much power at your hands, are you going to use it for good? Or are you going to listen to everybody else that's whispering, oh, you should do this and do that. Oh, line your pocket here. Don't worry about those people. They'll be okay. You got to take care of yourself and your family. And then eventually you just basically sold your soul.
True.
Do you guys think?
Yeah, because at that point you can't make your own decisions all the time. Sometimes you have to go with the good of the group wants, and then that goes against everything you believe in.
Exactly.
Do you guys think that Benny's for his people? When they go out and protest and say, no, I'm, a person of his own, from his own apartheid state, disagrees with the apartheid state and goes out and protests against genocide. What does Benny do to them? You guys check out the news. It's a trick question, by the way. He did pretty much what the Americans and a lot of other places around the world are doing to their students when they stand up for human rights, and they don't want to invest into genocide in any which way. The last protest in that country, I heard, or I saw actually, all the munitions being used on their own citizens. So you see where the culture is.
These protests haven't all been complete failures, too, by the way. 2 universities have divested since all of these began. Hopefully more will come.
Yeah, I saw one of the universities. I didn't know there was 2 of them. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's 2 so far that have divested. I think, but I'm not sure, but I think one of them's in Michigan.
Oh.
Sometimes it's not the data and the results that are the end of the wash. Sometimes it's just getting that awareness out there. Just like this, people won't know about State of Amerikkka until we get out there and get this on a regular basis. And then when people are aware of it going on, they'll probably start joining us. But we'll never know until we keep going, right? Exactly. I always wanted to have statistics too, and lots of people watching, and all 100 and whatever 125 universities have decided to get their heads out of the lining of their pockets and start thinking about human beings and proper education. But I guess you guys see where they stand. If it's only two colleges that are changing their ways, then yeah, it is concerning. I agree with that with Matt. Like, it doesn't look like it's enough. We just have to do more. Like, just talk about it again. And I'm glad these kids are out there talking about it and standing up and actually standing up for what they believe in, rather than sitting on the sidelines pacified.
Keeping up the pressure and the momentum. Don't let the momentum die.
Do you guys want to do some final thoughts and wrap up here soon? It's been about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I did mine about half an hour ago, so okay. I'll stick with that. I pretty much had said everything that I want to say. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak and join you guys. Again, I'm David Allen Moon from Dave Moon TV. My Indian name is Yakin Lanala, meaning wealthy whale, and I'm going to keep researching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week. on another episode.
It's nice meeting you.
Nice talking to you, Dave. As always.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate it being a two-way street. We all learn together from each other.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we can go ahead. And no one has anything else to say. Oh, I can't talk. But yeah, it was a good episode tonight, guys. I'm glad we were back. It's been like it feels like a year. I don't know if it's been that long, but it feels like it. So yeah.
For some of us, yeah, it's probably been a year.
Yeah. All right. Well,
So we'll see you guys next week, or we'll see you next year.
yeah, maybe one of the two. One of the two. It's a surprise.
Until the momentum dies. Until the momentum dies.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.